I think it's working now. Okay. Okay. I think we're live. Sorry guys. Facebook and Zoom don't like each other sometimes. So I think we're live and we're live in the group. Okay.
Nice.
Success. All right. Okay, we're going to dive in. Sorry everyone for being a little bit late. We are here. Facebook gave me some headache getting set up. So we are live. We are talking to Chris from Moonraker about SEO. I'm going to do a real quick intro. If you don't know me, I'm Audrey Shame, and I'm a licensed therapist in Northern California. I have a private practice myself, and then I run this group helping you all create balanced and sustainable private practices that can support your well-being first and foremost. Chris is my SEO guru, and he takes care of the marketing and SEO for my practice, and it has been amazing. So he's here to talk to you guys about some of the new cutting edge SEO related stuff. So I'm going to turn it over to him since we are running a few minutes late. Feel free to drop questions as we go. I'll be monitoring the questions and letting him know what comes up as we roll. So I'll turn it over to you, Chris.
Thank you. Can you allow me to share the
Oh yeah.
screen?
Yes, I can.
Cool.
Share, advanced settings, all
There we
participants.
go.
You're good.
All right, let me know when you can see that.
I can see it, and they will be seeing
Perfect.
it here very in just a moment.
Well, hey everybody, I'm Chris Morin. I run an agency called Moonraker.ai, and as Audrey mentioned, we do SEO for her practice and many others. And so we have a lot to cover today, and this is all about a really amazing annual report that comes out from a Canadian agency called Whitespark, and they've been around for ages. And every year they send out a 2-hour survey to all of the top SEO agencies in North America, and they ask them to share their thoughts on what are the most important ranking factors for local search like maps and ads and things like that. And the newest inclusion this year was AI visibility. So there's a ton of stuff in there. And so I went through and I cherry picked the top 10 for gaining visibility on maps in AI, and also 10 myths, which are factors that don't really move the needle at all. And these are pretty common things that a lot of therapists tend to worry about. So I want to give you permission not to worry about those things anymore. So let's jump into it. So why should you be here? So you don't want to waste time on ineffective SEO, and you want to know what actually moves the needle, and you are ready to attract more of your ideal clients. So that's the whole point of this. And as Audrey said, I'm Chris Morin. I came from the wellness space. I used to be a massage therapist for decades, and I have about 2 decades of marketing experience. And we don't need to get into that much. We've been sharing a lot of really great content all through this space, and I imagine you've seen me somewhere else before as well. So let's get into it. So the top 10 Google Maps ranking factors, these are the different things that you can adjust about your Google business profile, or as you'll hear me talking about it, the GBP, that is your maps listing, to improve your visibility on Google Maps. And I want to be clear that a lot of these are pretty obvious, and that's good because that means that a lot of you will have already gotten those correct. So I'm going to zip through them here, and then we're going to go a little bit deeper on each one. So the number one most important thing, setting the right primary category on your profile. And you know what? Actually, as soon as I said that, I wanted to start talking about it. Let's just go to the next page, and I'm just going to talk about each one. And we'll also support the mystery of what's next. So the number one most important ranking factor on Google Maps is to set the correct primary GBP category. It's something that you're going to set every single time. The general rule of thumb on this is if you're a solo practitioner, you can be more specific. So you can see this list over here. There is no harm in adding additional categories, but there's many different choices that all seem to overlap. The rule of thumb is just pick the most specific one that works for you. So if you do EMDR, there is a category for EMDR psychotherapist. That might be better for you than just psychotherapist. But by all means, put psychotherapist as an additional category. So this screenshot I took is from a group practice. So group practices, generally you would want to stay a little broader. So mental health service is the one that we picked first, and that's totally fine. Most importantly, you don't want to have anything that does not align with the industry at all. And I see a lot of folks that have some other things where it's like coaching is like, I know you do coaching, but it's like it's a very different category as far as maps is considered than mental health. So maybe it's going to dilute the signal. So try to stay as focused as you can. Number two, most important, as reported by 47 of the biggest agencies in the world, the proximity of your address on maps to the point that someone is searching from. So this is something that is unavoidable. If someone is right outside the door and they search for something that you offer, there's a good chance you're going to show up number one. And if you're 5 or 10 miles away, it will be very hard for you to rank quite high for them because proximity is a huge ranking factor. There's not a ton that you can do about this, but if you have any flexibility at all to move your physical address closer to a population dense area, then I would strongly encourage you to do so. To address any questions that come up for folks that are virtual only, I think it's further down in the list, but having your address visible on maps is going to make it easier for you to rank. It's a little unfair, but that's the way that the system works. And so if you want to get an address visible and you don't want to put, say, your home address, or maybe your home address is nowhere near where you're trying to rank, if you can get like a co-working space that has a specific office for you, there's a lot of office shares where you could rent it for like a day a week. If it's a few $100, it's my opinion that it will justify the cost and then some, because if you can get a physical address in a population dense area near where you practice, then that will be a really amazing source of leads for you. So anything you can do to get your actual address closer to the action is awesome. Number three, keywords in the business title. So this one gets abused all the time. And I want to state very clearly that Google's terms of service are that you can only put your actual business name. And I would say in practice, there's a little bit of flexibility where if it's like Audrey Shane, if you wanted to say instead of LMFT, you wanted to say therapy, that's probably fine. But it's even better if it's actually in your business name. So here's an example. If you're a solo therapist and you're thinking of rebranding to become a group practice down the line, then make sure that the actual business registration has a keyword in the business name, because then you don't have to worry about it. So yeah, a practice named Denver Anxiety Therapy, for example, is going to have a lot better time ranking for therapy related terms than Mindful Moments LLC. And I just made that up. If that's the name of your practice, I apologize. It's very nice, but it's not well targeted. So the more keywords that you can have in the business title, the better. Don't worry about near me, all that stuff. You don't have to change your business to be called Shelley's Therapy Practice Near Me. There was actually a phase where businesses did that years ago. It doesn't matter to Google. Just put something related to what you do. And most of you probably already have this, but just so that you know. Number four, is your physical address within the city that someone is searching in? If that is connected, then it's going to be a lot easier for you to show up in the search results. It's just one of those things where I don't know if it's based on Google statistics or if it's just the idea that, well, it's within the same jurisdiction as the person that's searching, so we're going to put them higher in the rankings, but it does seem to have a big effect. So you can see this client here. There's these 3 listings and they have different towns. If somebody was trying to find a practice that did intensives and they were adjacent to Beacon, New York, and not actually within Beacon, then this listing would have a slightly harder time ranking than if someone was right inside the town. So again, this might inform the decisions you make when it's like, which town do you want to actually show up in? And again, if you have flexibility to move, you at least move your address, then that's an option. Or if you're looking into an additional physical location, consider this as a very important piece strategically, not only in relation to the real estate itself, but the address itself and how close it is to the city center and the population dense areas. And it's true there will be a little bit more competition, but if you can break through and rank well, you're going to have a lot more leads as well. So the business is open at the time of search. And I want to be honest that I don't know how much this affects therapy practices, but there is definitive proof that for those fast turnaround search terms like restaurants near me, etc., it wouldn't make any sense for Google to give you a bunch of options that were closed. That just would be frustrating. And so the idea is, well, show that you're open more often. Again, I don't think that it's going to hurt if you show that you're open more. The obvious assumption is we'll just be open 24 hours, but I don't think that works either. And so one thing that you can do is there's this online service hours section. So let's say you leave your office and you would be willing to take virtual clients a little bit later, then feel free to add that there so that it's adding to your overall time where you're available to do sessions. And think of this as loosely as you can. Like if you've ever taken a session on Saturday, then add Saturday. This is not the kind of thing that somebody is going to reach out to you and be like, well, you said you were open at 5:35 p.m. on Saturday and you're not, and I'm frustrated. You can always address those little things in a consultation. Even if you had a physical address visible and you only do virtual clients, you can say, at this time, I'm actually only taking clients online, blah, 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 blah. So there's ways that you can work through all these little sticking points about what information is shown in the conversation that you actually have with your prospects. But this is going to be useful from a ranking perspective. Maybe, I just want, again, big fat maybe. At the very least, I don't think adding a few more hours each day is going to cause any harm. So why not? Number 6, and everybody knows this already, high numerical Google rating. So if you're, I would actually say, this is verbatim from the report, 4 to 5. I would say more like 4.4 to 5. You want to be at the top end of the ratings, or else if you're, especially if you're in the 3s or below, you will be actively demoted by Google because they don't think it's a good idea to send clients to you. And so this is a tough one. We all know that it's an ethical minefield. Audrey did a really interesting CE course recently. I won't speak to that, but in some places, you may be able to ethically seek out reviews from existing or past clients, but there are many steps and it must be done very properly. And there needs to be a paper trail to protect your butt from the FTC and HIPAA and everybody. So best case scenario, just do amazing service and focus more of your efforts on professional endorsements. And I'll talk more about that later. We're finding that it's actually better to just have like an endorsements page on your website that goes really deep about all of your colleagues, maybe even more so than having them add a Google review, because it's not really what the reviews are for. But if you have 0 reviews, then yeah, do what you can to get something. Well, let me back up one sec. I just want to say one more thing about this. A review that happens recently is going to be more important than a review that happens like a year ago. If you get a review last week, that's way more influential than one that happened last year, because Google wants to see that you continue to provide good services up until right now. So if you're going to do any kind of review generation strategy, try not to get like 12 reviews in a day because it's highly unnatural and it's definitely going to get whacked. Try to create a trend of positive sentiment over time. Number 7, the address is showing on your GBP, so you're not marked as a service area business. So there's a lot of reasons why people want to hide this. They work from home on their computer and they don't want to expose their home address. I completely get that. From a ranking perspective, this is a factor and I want you to know about it. So if you choose to hide your address, then there's more work that needs to be done to generate the same rankings. And it's not gonna, like, Google will always know the verification address. So even if you hide it, it still knows the general vicinity around where you're located. So you're most likely to generate leads from that area. If you mark yourself as a service area business and you're in, say, in this case, Northampton, Massachusetts, you're not going to say, I work in Boston and then get leads from 2 hours away on maps. They will never work that way. You can get leads from all over your state if you start adding that content to your website, but it's not going to happen on maps. So please understand that the service areas that you list are simply a visual guide for potential customers, because the whole idea of the system was like, I'm a plumber, I have an office in town, but you're not coming here. It's filled with pipes. I'm going to bring them to your house and fix that. So here's the area that I will travel. But it doesn't do anything for rankings. It's simply a guide. So you can't really manipulate where you show up by saying, this is my service area. I want you to show me in this town, for example. Additional GBP categories. So as I mentioned before, once you get the primary category dialed in, feel free to add as many other ones that are applicable to you as possible. And I won't get into like the ethics of this. Like if you're an online provider and you choose to put mental health clinic, that's up to you. Is it going to add a bunch of additional traffic? It's hard to say, but at the very least, don't put something that is poorly targeted. It's not going to help, and it wouldn't really make sense, and it might dilute the settings overall. And if you want to know what other people are setting for other categories, there's a variety of SEO tools. We use one called Localo in our agency, and it gives you a lot of good information about not only your own listing and how that's ranking, but what other people are doing if you want to monitor prominent competitors in the area. So you can kind of reverse engineer their strategy. Quantity of native Google reviews. So the reviews that are on Google. And again, this is an ethical minefield. We're always looking at ways that we can get around this. So here's an idea, and I recognize that this is a totally separate masterclass altogether, like how to get people to come to a workshop. But if you can manage to get a bunch of people to attend an in-person or virtual seminar about something related to your services, but it's not a therapeutic container, there's no PHI exchange, there's no contractual obligations, then I think that's a total win for them because you're generating real authority and providing real value to the community. But also, that seems like a pretty ethical situation to request an honest review. If you thought that this content was valuable, please consider tapping this link, going over and sharing your thoughts. And that could be a really great way for therapists to get reviews on Google from not therapy clients, but people that were absorbing good information related to communication or coping skills or whatever it is that you happen to talk about that's adjacent to your real services. It's kind of like what I'm doing. I'm telling you everything about what we do and how you can do it. And then some people come to me to get it anyway. So same principle, but just for your services. Number 10, proper placement of the map pin. So if you choose to expose your address, look at the map and you can tap in there and you can manually adjust it. So make sure that it's on your building. Because this is one where if it's off by like 1,000 yards, like it could really mess people up. And they're like, they're in a industrial park. What's up with that? I don't want to go there. So not only is this important for targeting and for where you show up on Google Maps, but it could be important for conversions and also just avoiding a disgruntled customer that or client that just goes to the middle of nowhere just because you didn't check a little detail. So make sure that it's as accurate as you can be and you can drag it around and get it right where you need it to be. And a bonus one, as I mentioned, the recency of reviews. So a review from yesterday means a lot more than a review from last year. So try to consider this as a trend. We want you to get positive reviews over time. And like I said, like if you have other ways that you can interface with the community and provide value, then I think there's a lot of legitimate opportunities to request reviews without ever encroaching in that ethical situation where it's kind of a gray area. Any questions about that before we jump into AI? Audrey, I can't hear you for some reason.
Sorry about that. I muted myself so I wouldn't
Okay.
accidentally come in. We do have a couple. We have lots of likes and lots of loves and lots of great feedback. Two questions. One, if you're fully virtual and your address is a PO box, can you list your address as the post office?
PO boxes will not work. UPS boxes will not work.
No.
Most of those will not work. Some co-working spaces can work, but the caveat is that you need to have a dedicated office with someone that is going to pick up your phone just for you. It can't be like the Rise and Shine co-working where we have 17 people in like, a shared space. It's that doesn't work. And also the best bet is probably like therapy specific shared offices where you can rent time on a short-term basis. Like I know one, we worked with a client in New York City in Midtown called Clarity Health and Wellness. They have a practice inside the same building, but he had a bunch of beautiful offices that they wanted to rent out for short-term usage from therapists. And they were supporting the process of getting a GBP listing verified out of their address. So one thing to note when you do an address, make sure that it's a completely unique address. So have a suite number. A simple way that you can check this, I'll show you. Let's say, let me pull up Audrey's listing real quick.
Yep.
So we see that there's an address on here. You can actually just go and search for an address and we can see anything that is listed in the same building. Floor one, floor one, floor one, floor one. So all of these are in the same business complex, but you can see here that she has called out a specific suite number, number 145. And so
Yeah.
this doesn't have to even be a real suite number. Google knows everything about the map, but it does not know what's inside your building. That's the limit of technology at this point. So if you're in a building with 10 other professionals, especially other therapists, you can come up with an arbitrary suite number to differentiate your address. But again, make sure that it's consistent. If you put it on your maps listing, put it on your website, put it on every place that your address shows, because the consistency is important. But you can do that, and then it will be just your address, and that's going to be a lot easier for Google because they're not like, who is the most prominent business at this exact location, because you're the only one. So
The
that'll
other,
help.
I'll add a personal experience of this, and this leads to the other question: is a virtual address useful? No, and not usually. So I had to do a video verification of my address at one point. It took, it was a nightmare, first of all. Sometimes it goes smoothly, but I had, you have to show permanent signage, getting into the office with a key, a staff only area, terminal for
Mhm.
payments, you, documentation of your business existing, like promotional materials. So there were like a checklist of like 8 or 9 things that I had to document on video, including the physical location and permanent signage. And
Yeah.
it was tough to do. So
Yeah.
they're making it harder for virtual or home based businesses that
Mhm.
don't want to show their address or don't have a physical location to get verified.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wanted to some potentially good news.
Mhm.
I won't guarantee that it works every time, but some inspiring news. We have a client in Connecticut, and she wanted to turn the address visibility off, but we needed to go through the verification process first. So in that phase, like leaving it visible is fine because no one's going to find it anyway. So she printed a sheet of paper just like this, stuck it on her door, logo, website, all the information aligns perfectly with her Google listing, and she got verified.
Shit,
Amazing.
that worked. I tried
It
that and
worked.
they failed me.
Oh no.
They failed me because they said you can't have a printed piece of paper stuck to your door. That's not permanent enough.
Is that laminated? No, it's not even laminated.
Yeah, no,
It's
I had to go and get vinyl cut to stick on the
Ooh,
window of my
wow.
door of my suite, of my room in my suite, in
So
order
if you
to
have
pass.
time to kill, then you can always start with something like this and see if it works. Another detail to know about the verification process. If you have your information showing up accurately and consistently on many other prominent platforms, then when you go to register your GBP, you will have a better time getting
Yes.
verified right away. So as
I want to
you build out other things, that
I
will
can
be
say
helpful.
that I recently changed and updated my address, and I anticipated having to do a video review. And I think that the work that you, Chris, have been doing to keep my profile active and connected to my other presences prevented that.
Yeah, absolutely. Because they're going to check all those other places like, where else does
Exactly.
this exist? And is this a legitimate business? Okay, well, we don't need to do this process. We're pretty clear that they're actually there. Cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's a gradient here. Like if the sheet of paper doesn't work, get it laminated. Get some vinyl. Like you, if you need to get signage, like my cousin, we're trying to verify his he has a supercar rental business in Las Vegas. He got a magnetic sign to stick on the
Yes.
side of his flatbed, and it worked. Amazing.
Window cling
And
film. I thought about doing a window cling
totally.
film. Yep.
Yeah, and it's not super expensive. It's a little annoying, but again, like I cannot emphasize enough how important the GBP is because this is going to be a really amazing source of leads for you. So these are, as reported by some of the biggest agencies in the world, the most important things. I would say that probably three-quarters of them are pretty straightforward. The stuff about the address is where it gets a little bit technical, but if you're doing all these things, then that's a really good step in the right direction. So let's talk about the other whole thing that is changing so much, which is AI visibility. So, how do you show up on AI? And I want to be clear when I say AI, I mean ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, Gemini. This is where everything is going, folks. So, right now, you can go to Google, you can see this, you can say therapist in Roseville, California, and you will see sponsored stuff and you will see the maps results. AI mode is this little button over here. This is the experience that everything will merge into in the next 6 to 12 months. And from what we hear, the only reason that it hasn't happened everywhere yet is that Google is still trying to figure out how to merge ads into this conversational experience. So once they figure out how to keep the money flowing, then they're going to switch over to this. And so there's slightly different rules to how Gemini, in Google's case, comes up with its answers. And I want to share, it's not in the presentation, but just from what we're learning, we're leaving the era of page rank. We're trying to rank a page, and there's certain things we do to rank a page, like backlinks and this and that. We're moving to the era of block rank. And when I mean block, it's like a block of text, like a paragraph. Like AI might throw out everything on your page, but you have one FAQ that's like the perfect answer to someone's question. You can get cited for that because it's so specific and so perfect. So the way that we want to structure data and the things that we want to see on the pages are slightly different than before. Breaking up text into chunks that are easy to digest for AI and then also cite and include into an answer is a really great way to boost visibility. So let's get into this. So this is a controversial one, and it's not super applicable to this space. Presence of your business on expert curated best of or similar lists. So this is what you see a lot of in, like, if you're trying to evaluate EHRs and other SaaS platforms, it's like top 10 automation platforms. And the companies that do automation will produce these blogs for themselves and then put their software as the number one option. But as long as they provide a lot of good value and information about other platforms, AI will see that and be like, oh, okay. And you can potentially cite yourself as the best choice and then actually rank for that, which I think is so funny. And this probably will not last forever. What we're seeing with AI is that as everything shifts and they're learning about how people are using these systems and trying to manipulate visibility, it's kind of like the early days of SEO, and it's like the Wild West where people are trying wild stuff and it's really cool. Like somebody did a kind of a guerrilla tactic to see what they could do and then got AI to cite something crazy about Disney that is definitely not true about Disney at all, but they just sent so many signals that stated the exact same thing about Disney's studios and how it was changing that the answer was completely wrong. And so it's very interesting. So how would we do this in an ethical way? I wouldn't suggest like the best 10 therapists in Austin, because that's just weird and just kind of icky in this space. You might consider doing a blog that's like the 5 best modalities to address childhood trauma. And you just so happen to do the one that you list first, and you have a link to the page on your site that's talking about that. So it's something worth considering, but this is currently one of the most powerful and very rapid ranking factors or visibility factors for AI. So I'd be remiss if I didn't include it here. Dedicated pages for each service. I love this as number 2 because this is something that we've been preaching for a long time. So if you don't have a page broken out for each of your main specialties, modalities, and also locations, you're missing a lot of opportunities for traffic and visibility. So I'll show you an example. On Audrey's site, there are pages for all these specialties, different modalities, and each of these pages goes very deep on that one thing. Brain spotting. It's called brain spotting. It's called brain spotting. Its title is brain spotting. It's all about brain spotting. It's very unambiguous. And look, we have a whole bunch of FAQs just about brain spotting. More on that later, but this is junk food for AI. This is potato chips. Perfect, delicious. They just gobble it up. And it's awesome to get you featured in the answers because these are all very specific questions that people are going to ask about this service in your area. So absolutely include FAQs. It's a great way to get more comprehensive information on the page in a format that AI really loves. Oh, just one other note about this. So what are some of the ways that you can figure out FAQs that people are actually asking about? If you go to Google, just use traditional Google. You could do something like EMDR therapy, Los Angeles. And you're going to see the sponsored stuff. You're going to see the map stuff. People also ask. These are here because Google knows people ask this stuff all the time. And so they might not all be perfectly applicable for you, Like maybe you don't want to talk about the 333 rule for anxiety, but you can comb through this, and every time you open one up, they add more. And so you can get a ton of good information there. You can also do like the pre-search, which is EMDR therapy, and then there's all these auto suggests. You can do who, what, why, how, where, and when. All those cool words, and you get all the, when does a therapist do during, what does a therapist do during EMDR? Somebody asked that enough times that Google's like, this is the thing that people talk about. So all these ways that you can get information straight from Google that is verified as having real search volume, because they wouldn't include it there if it didn't have a bunch of people asking for it. So great source of inspiration for your FAQs. And you can do something as simple as take a screenshot and dump it into ChatGPT and say, hey, here's my website address. Here's a bunch of questions. Can you formulate this into the FAQs for my page? And it will do that for you. And you can get this on your site in probably 30 minutes. Prominence on key industry relevant domains. So this is another one that a lot of people are probably already doing without even realizing it. Like this is sites like, it could be directory sites like Psych Today, Therapy Den, Open Path Collective, etc. It could be your very specific training related sites like Emdria or IFS Institute, or I don't know if Terry has a site, but RLT, any type of directory sites that you can get on, these are prominent sites for your industry because there's thousands of people that are connected to Emdria. And it's one of the biggest sources of information and truth when it comes to EMDR for Google in the world. And so if you're on there, that's your little slice of that domain. And you can link to your website in a lot of times, but even just being on there is still important because Google's going to read all the information. And even though it's not a backlink per se, because there's a link going to your website, just the fact that you're cited on there is still important. And that's exactly what we're talking about here. So this is number 4, the quality and authority of unstructured citations. So a citation is essentially a mention of your practice name, address, phone number, website that does not include a backlink. So this is why we take the time to build out the information from the Google business profile on a ton of other prominent directory sites. Not because we can link back to the website necessarily, but because having the same exact information on Apple Maps, Bing Places, Yelp, the other therapy specific directory sites that I mentioned, it's just more places that we can multiply the same signal, and Google sees all of it and AI sees all of it, and they're like, wow, this information is very thorough and it's consistent and it's in all these very prominent places. I feel like it's more trustworthy than if it was a different phone number here and a different address there. This information gets crawled and accumulated by these sites over time. So it's important to be proactive and go and address it because it could be inconsistent, and that's going to be a diluted signal. And they're going to be like, is that a legitimate practice? Where are they? And I've seen people get included in the wrong search results because their MapQuest from 1973 showed like their oldest address. So make sure that these things are set up. Another way to think of this is like sites like Reddit. Reddit is a powerhouse for AI visibility. So is Quora. Now, I would not encourage you to go and try to inject in like a guerrilla type way, like your brand name in conversations, because it's cringy and it's weird and you will be demolished on these sites. But it's just like Facebook. There's a ton of groups that are talking about modalities and things. So imagine if somebody asked this question, what's it like? If you provide this service to people, you absolutely should be chiming in to share your experience anonymously about what your clients go through. That's a perfect example of when you can say something that really provides value. And eventually, in a natural way, there may be an opportunity to mention your practice name and more information if someone asks for it. So think of this as like a long-term goal where it's like, I wanted to provide real value with no strings attached. Like that's how you generate true authority. You just give and give and give, and it will come back. Number 5, authority on third-party sites on which reviews are present. So these would be Apple Maps, Bing Places. Actually, I think Apple might pull from Yelp. Yelp is another one. Facebook business page. Um, your LinkedIn page has endorsements. Psych Today has endorsements. So think of it like Google and other systems are looking for diversity of reviews as well. The maps listing is going to be the most important place for reviews to increase your maps visibility. But for AI, they're going to take all of this into consideration. So a review just about anywhere is going to be worthwhile. So if you're going to ask your colleagues to leave reviews on your maps listing, then you might as well ask them to leave 3 other reviews on your Facebook business page and your LinkedIn and your Yelp and stuff while you're at it. Geographic city/neighborhood keyword relevance of content. So this is one of the reasons that we like to have an explicit location page and not just mention where you practice in the footer. So actually having a page dedicated to the place where you are. And if you're virtual, my encouragement would be stay focused, because I talk to a lot of SciPact folks, and there's this allure to ranking in 44 states all at once. But in reality, you're going to rank really well in one town and maybe get some leads from throughout the state. And to be honest, that's going to be more than enough to scale a group practice in almost all places. So you don't need to do it. And also, if you go and build 44 location pages, Google's going to be like, what the hell is going on? I don't think that this is real. This is spammy. And we're going to just like demote them. So it's it's important to stay focused, especially for the virtual folks. Having a state page is okay, but having a city or town page is better, because it's easier to dominate in a small zone than to try to show up everywhere all at once. That's just very unrealistic. So I want you to get good results more quickly. So usually the best thing is, if you have a maps listing, even if the address is hidden, just put a page on your site that's related to the town where you verified your listing. So, and again, if you start blowing up in that town with 50,000 people, add another page for an adjacent town. It makes sense that you would provide services there too. So if you're virtual, you can be a little bit more selective if you wanted to target like a population center. But again, just think about what makes logical sense to Google. These systems are extremely advanced and they know when you're trying to mess around. So just make it believable, and it will be. Quantity of unstructured citations. So similar to the quality before, like the sheer quantity is also important. So newspaper articles, blog posts, etc. Blog posts on other sites like guest posts. The newspaper articles is an important note because we can do a press release. They're not particularly expensive. Most of the providers, and there's a lot of them, will syndicate a press release for $150 to $300. This is one small piece of the syndication report that we provide to clients. We do press releases and we get information on 550 news sites across the world in about 2 weeks. And it's not that we want someone from Southeast Asia to come visit your practice in Minneapolis, but it's that AI loves to see the same information everywhere. And so imagine you go from a decent website that isn't very comprehensive. We have a Google listing that's not really optimized. And now we have a very great, comprehensive, valuable website, a Google listing that's perfectly aligned with it, and your same information shows up on 1,000 other locations. Who do you think is going to be considered more strongly when there's a bunch of options and you're the one that has this massive and consistent digital footprint? Like, that's why we do this stuff. This is all good information for AI, and they're like, wow, they must have a really good reason to post in all these places. Think of the PR like another tool to distribute information. You don't necessarily need some big announcement like, we're adding a new associate or we open a new location. Of course, that's a great time to have a PR, but you can also use it to just say, these are the services that we provide in this place. And here's a few links to our specialty pages, and here's the name, address, phone number about our practice, and just get it syndicated everywhere. High numerical Google ratings. Here we go again. So AI looks at this too. So if you have a very well ranking maps listing, that can affect your visibility on AI. It's just the truth of it, because it's such a prominent property as far as Google's whole ecosystem is concerned, that of course it's going to be a big ranking factor for any of the new technology that they roll out and like new ways that they portray information. And when you do a search, so you know, the reason that this is true when you do a search in AI mode, most likely someone's going to be chatting with their phone. So they're going to say something like, can you help me find a therapist in California who specializes in relational life therapy? This is a charged one because if you don't show up.
I know.
So we have some directories here, and then we have,
There I am.
there she is, number two. Amazing.
Wow.
And so this is the way that Google is going to show information. Let's say we were really, really simple and we just said like, can you help me find an EMDR therapist in Houston? It's probably going to recognize that as a local search term, and it's going to show some specific maps listings. This is the way that the maps listings are going to show up in the future. It's a very nice kind of hybrid experience where you got the map down here, you got the listing on the side, there's a conversation going on, like it's very interactive, and the map is not going anywhere. The people love the map and play with the map. It's important to note that Google has been trying for years to create this zero-click search experience where you give them all of your information and share everything about yourself with them so they can harvest your data, but they don't direct you to anybody's website because all the answers are right on platform. So they've done it, but that doesn't invalidate the need for you to have a very good website and a good Google Maps listing because it's still going to pull from those sources to cite you in the answer. So you have to have that there anyway. And so, yeah, just an interesting way that everything is kind of merging together. And this is what the future is going to be in the next 6 to 12 months. Website's a degree of focus on a specific niche. So I showed this as an example. This is a client. They do ketamine-assisted intensive retreats. It doesn't get a lot more specific than that. And so everything on this website is described in relation to that main experience that they provide. So the real take home from this piece here is try to stay focused. Don't dilute yourself. Somebody that's writing a site about EMDR intensives for childhood trauma is probably going to rank a lot higher for anything related to this versus someone that does individual counseling. And again, you might do a lot more, but if that's all you say on the website and everywhere else, then Google doesn't know one way or the other. So we need to inform them very specifically, this is what we do, here's all the information about it, and try to pick a theme and try to be consistent. That said, if you have adjacent services that make sense, like under one roof, like it's not impossible to have a site that ranks for a therapy service and coaching at the same time. You don't need to split it all out like that because it's like really time and resource intensive, but it's always easier to focus on one very specific niche. And I know that there's fear because it's like, if I'm feeling scarce, I don't want to cut out 95% of my possible leads and focus on one tiny group, but you will succeed better in that way. Like I can do SEO for anybody. It's pretty much the same in any industry, but I went super deep on therapists because I like working with you guys. And also I know a lot about this. But even before I did, people thought I did. And the same will happen for you too. If you stay super focused, you say, I'm an expert in this one thing. If you stay as a generalist, what you're really saying is, I'm not the best solution for anybody because I can work with everybody. So be specific. AI is picking up on that and it will change your visibility because of it.
And for those who are like, well, I have three or four different things that I really like to do. They're all specific, but I really like all of them. I that's me, right? I have these very specific but different groups that have overlap, but also are different, specific in very specific ways. So even if you're specific about a few different things, that's still better than being general about everything a, a ranking perspective. I do have one
Yeah,
question that popped in real quick.
sure.
How can you add your social media post to Google?
How can you add social media posts to Google? So a simple way would be you take the share link from, say, your Facebook post, and then when you create a GBP post, which is like the little microblog function on there, you would just add that as the link that you connected the post to.
On
Um,
Google Business.
yeah, one really awesome way to tie these platforms together, if you were doing YouTube stuff, you don't even need to do videos. You could do like a slideshow, add it as a video in a playlist that was targeting a keyword. And you could take the share link of a video, add that as the link on a GDP post, and YouTube is super powerful. It's hard to
Mhm.
explain why. This is a totally separate topic, but there's certain what I consider coveted platforms that Google trusts more than others because it's within their own fortress, and also it's almost impossible to fake. Like bots are not making YouTube channels. And so having one, just the simple fact that it exists is a signal that you are as real as it gets. It grounds your online presence to a real world entity, unlike most things can do. And if you tie that directly to the posts on your GBP, it's just again like more handshakes, more like deterministically connected things where it's like
Mhm.
YouTube, GBP, we love this. They're using all of our platforms in the right way. And that's more of a intermediate to advanced stuff. But if you wanted to tie socials together, consider tying YouTube and the GBP together, perhaps before anything else.
Mm. Okay.
Scannable content structure across the entire website. So this talks a lot about how you build a page. So do you have effective headings? Is there a semantical hierarchy? You're not going from an H1 to an H5 and then an H2 and an H3. Like the whole point of heading classes is that you have a major topic and then subtopics and then sub-subtopics. So it's designed to orient the visitor, but also the bots that are crawling. So if you're using a template, then you're probably good. If you built the site yourself, be mindful of the way that maybe you didn't know much about headings and you just picked them because you like the size of this and the font of that. That might cause some disruption and some confusion in the way that these systems are crawling your pages. So you could just try to keep it really simple. You have one H1 at the top, it's the main title. Maybe you have an H2, it's like your emotionally impactful statement, and then just use H3s and then regular paragraph text throughout the rest of your page. And just break up the paragraphs with an H3. So it's like your little title, and then you have the rest of the content below that. You can also use bullet points, things like that, keeping paragraphs shorter. Because again, what are we trying to do here? What this says to me is like reformat and reorganize your content so that it's ready for AI. And we're basically, when a new parent is chopping up the food for their kid, getting it ready, this is what you're doing with your content, getting it ready for AI. You're slicing it up into little bite-sized pieces. And that makes it so much easier for them to cite a piece of your content and then put it in the answer. And when you're cited, you're added as a citation on the sidebar and also often right in that paragraph of information as well. And the easiest way to do this, if you don't want to mess with the rest of the page, just add an FAQ section at the bottom. My encouragement would be to keep it visible if you can. The accordion is fine if you want to use that too. Bonus one, diversity of third-party sites on which reviews are present. So again, this is similar to before, but it's not so much about the star rating. It's just about the breadth of sites that you have reviews on. Because again, Google is seeing all of this. AI platforms are seeing all of this. So consider getting endorsements and reviews on as many different types of platforms as you can. So think about the therapy-specific ones, Google Maps, your Facebook business page, Yelp, LinkedIn endorsements, etc. So again, this is a good opportunity if you're going to ask a professional colleague to swap with you or something like that, then give them a bunch of links and have them do a bunch of reviews. It's going to take like another minute, so it's worth it. So any questions about AI visibility before we move on?
We do have one more, and the question is, can headings be any font size as long as they're accurately coded as like H1, H2? So yeah, like your
Great.
H1 can be any size as long as it's where the H1 should be.
Absolutely. Here's a great
Makes sense.
example. H1.
Yep.
We wanted it to be there because the way that we optimize pages from a technical perspective is we keep the anchor link in the navigation and the URL and the H1 and the page title all the same. And we also want to include that same keyword in the first and second paragraphs. That's the full extent of what we do for optimizations. And this is an H1, but we want this to be the main place that your eyes fall. This is an H2. And so this is Squarespace, so it's pretty easy. You can say just
Mhm.
like lock to the constraints of the boundaries that we give you, and then you can just squash it. So it will get forced into that small space. So good, really great question. The font size doesn't matter, the class matters more.
Okay, perfect.
Let's talk about myths. This is stuff that you don't have to worry about ever again. You have my
Mm,
permission to let it go completely. If
yay.
you've been worried about geotagging photos and adding a bunch of metadata to images that you add to your website or your Google listing, don't worry about it. It doesn't seem to move the needle at all. So this is a really technical thing that it's just it takes a lot of time and it doesn't provide any value. So don't even worry about it. If you don't understand it, then definitely don't worry about it. Follower count on social profiles. I want to be clear here. We're talking about what makes a difference from an SEO perspective, an AI visibility perspective. So how many people that follow you on Instagram doesn't matter to your SEO rankings or visibility at all. So social media is a totally different animal and it's very useful. Obviously, Audrey, you know that very well, but it's for different reasons. Participation in Google Ads. And that could be the Performance Max, it could be this, it could be that, local service ads. It doesn't have anything to do with your SEO. It's a totally different business unit altogether. Imagine Google as a true umbrella corp with 1,000 different businesses that run with the same cool colors. That's how separate your GBP is from your ads manager. It's completely different. And even though they're portrayed adjacent on the search results, it doesn't make a difference to your SEO performance.
Quick question. So, do you mean no alt text file names needed on photos anymore?
I think that's also one of the
Is that
ones
what
in
you
here.
said? That's what they wanted to clarify. Does that mean no alt text file names needed?
Do I have that further down?
Or is that contained in the first one?
Keywords and image metadata. I think, yeah, this is number
Okay.
7. I'll get to that in just a
Okay,
sec.
great, great, great. Yeah, thank you.
Good one now. The length of the title tag. So this isn't going to affect rankings, but the title is one thing where we keep it really simple. We just put it exactly the same as the primary keyword target of the page. You can get a little bit more creative with it, but having a longer title tag is not going to make you suddenly rank. Don't worry about keyword stuffing 25 things in there. Just make it natural and make sure that the primary purpose of the page is the first thing that you mention. EMDR therapy for couples in Houston. That's a great title tag, or just EMDR therapy. Either way is fine. The presence of a sitemap on your site. And I want to be clear about this one because the purpose of a sitemap is to explain to Google, here's the whole menu. This is all of the information on the site broken down by URL. So make sure that you crawl and index all of this. If your pages are all crawled and indexed already, you don't need the sitemap. The sitemap doesn't have any special powers other than the situation where Google is missing half of the pages on your site and then you add it in and now it knows to look for them. And this is something that we check for right when we start campaigns. Like I hop into Search Console, and if they don't have a sitemap that's being indexed, then it's something that's really easy to add. I'll show you what it looks like. If you're in Search Console, and if you don't have this set up, then definitely set it up. It's really easy to do. You're gonna have all this stuff over here. You'll see sitemaps. You should see something here. Almost all modern site builders, WordPress, Squarespace, etc. The sitemap is going to be your entire domain /sitemap.xml. That's it. And so if you don't know what to call it, just try that and submit it, and you'll see the success status, and it will show how many pages it's discovered. So it's nice to do that. And then every time you update your site, add blogs, add other things, it's going to automatically append that information, that new URL to your sitemap so that Google will never miss anything. But it's not going to boost your rankings all by itself. Keywords in owner responses to reviews. So this is one that was contested for a while, but it's pretty much settled. You're not going to be responding to any Google reviews anyway, at least you shouldn't be because it's an ethical minefield. But if for some reason you did, or you want to, or you have a friend in a different industry that's doing it, tell them you do not have to say, thank you so much for coming to eat our hamburgers. We love to produce the best hamburgers in Austin. It doesn't matter. The keywords in the review actually matter a lot because Google's going to read all that and they're like, whoa, look, the person just verified that this service is provided there because they mentioned EMDR therapy. Okay, that's really great. Now the community is reporting that they're providing what they say they do in the website, so the cycle is completed and we feel a little bit more comfortable directing clients to them. So in the reviews themselves, really great. So if you're going to ask your friends and colleagues, have them write a paragraph and have them mention your primary specialty, maybe a modality, and the location that you practice. But again, if you're going to respond to it, doesn't make a difference. And you shouldn't be anyway. Keywords and image metadata fields. So this speaks to the question from before. Alt text, etc. File names, doesn't matter. We actually just go and erase anything that is in the alt text unless it's a natural language answer that's describing the actual content of the image itself. That was the original point of the alt text, was to be supportive for people where the image just broke and it didn't show up, or they had like visual impairments and they couldn't. There's a variety of reasons why images don't show up. Some people have religious filters, etc. Just to avoid any chance of seeing something inappropriate. So having the text there is an aid so that they know. It's like a subtitle, but for an image. And we've been using it to stuff keyword data for a long time. Google's new system is called Lens. It can read and interpret the content of an image. So you don't need to tell it. It knows that it's not your SEO keyword. It knows it's something different. So don't even worry about it. Just leave it blank.
So, a quick note on this, because one of the topics separate from this in the therapy world is accessibility of websites. So, you might still put them in for the purpose of accessibility, but they can be specific to that. They don't have to be keyword related. It can just be to help accessibility
Yeah,
from now on.
that's a great point.
Yeah.
So if we were gonna, this would be like a headshot of Audrey Shane. This would be like green plants in a dish next to Audrey's cool business card. I didn't even notice that there. Um, make sure you put your business card in every single image so you can say it's of your business card. I'm kidding. Don't do that. Quantity of posts on social profiles. So again, the amount of times you post on Instagram or TikTok, it doesn't matter for SEO. Can you get followers and clients from social? Totally. Would I encourage you to dedicate half of your life to pursuing that goal? Probably not. And again, socials are important in the context of, do these platforms exist for your practice? Are they connected to your Google business profile? Are they connected to your website? Because they're really great at grounding you to the real world. Because again, these are really influential sites. They're hard to fake. And so when you have these profiles and there's proof of life on them, Google loves to see that. And in what I would consider like a pre-ranking sense, because before you ever get considered for visibility, they want to prove that you're real. We're in the era of AI madness, and it's harder and harder than ever to figure out what's real. So when we start campaigns for clients, the first priority is to ground their entity, as we call it. Like, how do we take this online presence, connect it to the real world? And having a whole interconnected network of all of these social profiles is a really great way to do that, among other things. So consider it a way of proving that you really exist, and have a few posts on there to show that it's a real profile that's active, but you don't need to do it for rankings other than that, because it's not going to make a difference. Keywords in meta descriptions. So this is an interesting one, because meta descriptions as we know it are probably going to go away, because there's no need for meta descriptions if the traditional blue link Google search results aren't there. It's just going to be citations in a paragraph that the AI answers for you. So this is not even going to be a thing very soon. So if you wanted to write compelling meta descriptions for now, then make sure that it's designed to get people to click on the page. That's the only purpose of them. This has been beaten to death for years. So don't keyword stuff your descriptions. It doesn't make a difference. Excuse me. Frequency of posts on social profiles. So a lot of things, busting myths related to social. If you post every day, it doesn't make a difference for SEO. It's no different than if you post once a year. So again, it's totally separate, adjacent strategies, but it doesn't do anything for AI visibility or your rankings on Google Maps. And the bonus, this is actually number 16, but I thought it was applicable in the same vein. Engagement on your social profiles, likes, comments, shares, etc., doesn't mean a thing for SEO. So again, great job for creating some, engaging content, but it's not going to affect your AI visibility or your maps visibility. So think about using it for what it's really made for, which is community building, brand awareness, like sharing real value. That's what I think is the most important thing you can do. As I said before, Reddit, Quora, Facebook, there are so many groups with people that are desperate for any information related to mental health. And without crossing any ethical boundaries, there's ways that you can strategically add value. And I think of it in an energetic sense, like it's sowing positive seeds because you're really genuinely trying to help. And that's how you grow true authority, is you provide value with no strings attached. And people will come to you when they're ready. And it's more likely to happen if you are prominent and engaged in these conversations from the beginning. So don't be weird about it. Don't try to like wiggle your way in there. Definitely don't hire somebody from Fiverr to blow up every post known to man with your brand name. It's a great way to destroy your reputation. So just think about social the way that it should be. This is a community. We're trying to help each other out. And that's it. We got it. We got through faster than I expected. So if you have any questions, I'd love to hear them, or hop on and let's chat.
Yeah, I don't have any new questions in the chat. I think somebody did ask, do you do website audits? I think, uh, yeah, I will say working with Chris has been great. Working with your company has been awesome, easy. It's been a good experience. One of the things that I really appreciate is how honest you've been about certain things. We've talked about certain strategies for my business, and you're like, I don't think that's worth investing in, given your goals. And so it's really refreshing to have a professional in the SEO community say, no, that's not worth your money. And I trust Chris to do that. He's one of the few that I trust to say, I don't think this is worth your investment. And so I appreciate him for that. Uh,
Yeah, and
and
if
yeah,
you
so
do,
go ahead.
what's that? Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, if you do want a site audit, then feel free to book a call with me, and we'll rip through all that stuff together.
I had one question pop in. I think I may have missed it earlier. In a past newsletter, so she says in a past newsletter, you stated the wording needed to be exact across Google Business, Bing, Apple Business. However, each platform has its own language, and for some services, it cannot be exact. Is that okay? What do you do?
Yeah, first of all, thank you for reading the newsletter. I appreciate that.
It's a good one.
Yeah, I'm very impressed. I never wanted to do a newsletter because I thought, well, what can I say that has value? But I give a lot of credit. That's all driven by Scott, our director of growth and operations, and he's absolutely crushing it. And I love to read it every week. So kudos to Scott for that question. But it's true that there's going to be nuances on each of these different directory sites and platforms that are different. And especially when it comes to like how it breaks down services, the most important information is NAP. We call it the NAP or the NAPW, name, address, phone number, website. Especially name, address, phone number. If you don't have an address, then the name and phone number. Whatever you can put, I think almost every platform that exists has the same fields for that stuff. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of directory sites that will not allow you to post if you don't have a visible address, like Apple Maps. But if you don't want to show your address, then try to get on all the other ones where you can put it there anyway without having the visible address. So at the very least, like even just the name, if the name is identical, that's better than if it's not. And this is where I get really, really OCD and nitpicky. Like if you write your address as like Oliver Street, Suite 111 with an STE and no period, write it like that everywhere. We don't want it to be Suite number 111. Like we want it to be as close to identical as we can. Just because and there's some argument over, well, they know the difference. Well, they probably do, but let's just make it easy. You're just going to copy and paste it. So keep it really simple and try to clean it up. And just one note that falls in the same category. If you have a different domain name than the name of your practice, this happens when I see people that are like, I was a solo and I'm trying to rebrand so that I can scale. It's not the end of the world. If you don't have an exact match domain name to the rest of your stuff, it's not ideal, but at the very least, like on your homepage, mention your practice name. If it's like drericasoandso.com, but it's the Austin Center for Integrative Healing, make that the H1 on your homepage and make that the name of your GBP and make that the name in all of your directories. Like have the business name that you want to use. And you can shift the domain name down the line, but again, it's not the first priority. The consistency of that information is important,
Mm.
but the domain is not super, super important in that.
Okay, awesome. If you guys don't have the newsletter, go to his website, sign up. It's really good. It's actually packed with really actionable like items.
Yeah, you can
Uh,
scroll away at the bottom on the homepage,
it's
past all
fabulous.
the incredible social proof and all this free, amazing content. You come way down here and sign up for actually really good newsletter.
Actually, really good. It is actually really good. That's awesome.
It just cracks me up because I just don't like newsletters at all, but I really love our newsletter.
It is really good. I actually read it. Even though I know you're taking care of me and everything for my site, I still read it. And I'm like, wait, should I do that? No, no, Chris has got it. Chris has got it.
Just a lot of interesting stuff. It's like 5 1-minute reads about the intersection of the search landscape,
Yeah.
uh, compliance, AI,
AI.
and
Hmm.
technology, and all that stuff. And because it's just like smashing together this year. So there's so many
Yeah.
things changing. And we're not HIPAA consultants, but we try to stay up on things. And we're learning a lot as we're in the process of launching our own HIPAA compliant platform. So there's just so much to know. And as these systems that look for non-compliances and inconsistencies become more advanced, it's very important that you consider being proactive about cleaning up the technology that you use. Here's a simple example. I don't want 1,000 people's heads to explode, but Calendly is not necessarily a HIPAA compliant booking platform.
It's not. It's not.
Is it gonna get your practice shut down? Maybe if some lawyer has a hair across his ass. I don't know. But there's other options. Like you can use a booking calendar from Google.
Yep.
And if you sign a BAA with Google in your workspace, then that's pretty much the same thing.
Mhm.
So there's always alternative tools or strategies that are going to be compliant, and many of them are going to be the same price, if not cheaper. Again, the Calendly is just like one little carrot to dangle, but there's a lot of different things that fall into that same category of like, well, I didn't know. And that's not going to be adequate much longer. So
Right.
this might be the year to really comb through that and be like, how can I make this a little better and tighter?
Uh, uh, if I just got a comment, all the call options for this particular person are between 3 a.m. and 6:30 a.m. Uh,
So I am currently in Da Nang, Vietnam. It is now 2:43 a.m. So
yes.
I don't usually like to take calls at this time. So if you're in the East Coast, it's a simple 12-hour swap. So we just swap AM to PM. If you're on the West Coast, it's 15 hours difference. So your late afternoon, early evening aligns really well with my morning on the next day. So if you're willing to hop on a call at like 8 p.m., then I would love to chat with you at 11 a.m. the next morning. So something like that.
Yeah, so if you're not seeing something, I'm sure you can reach out to Chris and see if
Yeah.
there's a time that will work for you both.
Yeah. There's the
As
advertised ones, and then there's the other ones that I like to fit in manually so I don't get surprised by that. So feel free
yeah,
to shoot me a message.
yeah, yep. All right. Thank you, Chris. Another action-packed, information-packed presentation. This will be live in the Facebook group for, I think, 30 days is what Facebook now allows live videos to last in the groups. We're going to download it. We are going to post it on our YouTube channel. We are going to post it embedded on our blog as well, doing the whole thing
Nice.
there. So it will be distributed. The link will be posted. It will be sent out by email. So this will be here for your review. And if you have additional questions, feel free to come in the group. Tag Chris. He's in our group. Tag him in a comment. Tag him in a post. However you need, and we will get answers for you. Awesome. All right.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everybody.
everybody. Let me hit the end. Wait.